सगळ्यांक येवकार आणि एक विशय आसा आयचो हेवी फेल्ड अवर यूथ आणि हेवी फेल्ड अवर यूथ म्हणटा तेन्ना आमी जेन्ना विशय डिस्कस जालो तेन्ना फाटल्या एक म्हयनेभरा भितर गोंया भितर ज्यो एक 5-6 घडणुको घडल्यात त्या घडणुकांक लागून दिसलें की आनी खंयचो विशय दवरप न्ही जाल्यार हो विशय दवरपाचो कारण एज अ सोसायटी एंड एज अ गोवन सोसायटी इफ वी आर नॉट एड्रेसिंग दीस इशू टुडे देन वी आर नॉट एड्रेसिंग एनी इशू. युथाचे रिप्रेझेंटेटिव्ह आसात वेगवेगळ्या भुरग्यां कडेन दर दिसाक तांकां हँडल करपी टिचर्स आसात सायकॅट्रिस्ट आसात आनी विद्यार्थी चळवळींतल्यान मुखार सरून जज जाल्ले लिडर हांगा आसात. देखून हांव सुरवात तुमचे कडच्यान करता आनी आय विल रेफर टू सम स्पेसिफीक इन्सिडंट सो दॅट यू कॅन टॉक अबाउट इट. एक गजाल आमी पळयली की भुरगीं खूब वायलंट जावपाक लागल्यात. एक हाताक सुरू घेवप आनी तो आपल्याच फ्रेंडाक तुपप फॉर अ व्हेरी व्हेरी पेटी रिजन हॅज बिकम अ व्हेरी कॅज्युअल एक्ट फॉर दॅम. वॉट इज द रिजन? आनी कारण तुमी तशी बसींचेर बी पयलीं खूब फातर मारल्यात सो तो फातर मारपाचो अनुभव आनी सुरू तोपपाचो अनुभव वेगळो दिसता काय सगळे सेम काय मातशें गरम रक्त आसता तेन्ना तुपप जाताच?
Today's world has become a different kind of a world. Means the societal setup today with WhatsApp, with internet, has brought us closer to one another and yet far away from each other. Means humanity is something which is completely going down. That is what I really feel. And the psychiatrist will be the better person. But I think that human values is something which is becoming less and less in our society. Maybe it is our education system. And that is the reason like there is more, maybe less competitive spirit, easy way of getting things. All this is responsible, I think.
But एक गजाल बघ सर, I asked you that question very specifically. Where issue comes की violence. The violence becomes your primary instinct. That is where the problem starts. तशी तुमच्यारी पुलिसे भितर केसी आशिल्ल्यो विद्यार्थी चळवळी भितर तुम्ही पब्लिक प्रॉपर्टी डॅमेज केली हे केली म्हणून तुमचेर केसी आशिल्ल्यो. How is that violence different from this violence that we are talking?
No, that violence means we were not violent. Like what Mahatma Gandhi also said, like that we believed in non-violence. But like when we fighting for the genuine issues of the students of the society, like when the state tries to repress the people, then we had to. It was like a reaction. Like what they say, every action is equal and opposite reaction. It was like that. I think that basically our objective was to get our demands met. It was not like it was not for it was not for any personal objective.
That is the major difference. हांव सायकॅट्रिस्ट मरे मी घेता बट कितें दिसता कारण मातशें बरें दिसता एखाद्या युनिवर्सिटीक आंदोलनां बी जावपाक लागल्या कांयच जायनाशिल्लीं इतली थंड आशिल्लें की भुरगीं आसात काय ना काय बरे भशेन शिकून घर वतात असो एक डावट मारतालो. आंदोलन आवाज बी जाता पण मातशें बरें दिसता. तुमकां कितें इतली वर्सां शिकयतकीर कितें फरक दिसता भुरग्यां भितर?
म्हाका दिसता की भुरग्यांचो टॉलरन्स लेवल आतां खूब कमी जाला. And in Goa especially, all the children get everything they want because the families are financially very stable. The students don't have any problems. But the thing which they need is time. And I think that's a very major factor among the parents because both parents are working. We have now gone from nuclear, I mean, we live in nuclear families. We had joint family system previously, where there was some kind of a protection for a child, unanimous protection when they were depressed or they had some problem. If the parents were not there, the other family members would take over. But now I feel when both the parents are working, sometimes they give the children everything they want. Financially, they give everything that they want, but the time is a factor which parents don't give the child. There's no time to listen, and now with all these mobiles, children spend their time with mobiles. Even when they're eating, they're with their mobiles, some of them. So I've made a rule in my house that no mobiles.
They listen to it. They follow the rule.
They listen to it.
You are lucky.
Everyone respects it. Yes, I'm lucky in that way. So I feel that I think as far as the university is concerned also, teachers also should spend time with their children. Like I have 2 courses in my department. One is a national program and one is a program from Goa. So the national students don't have their parents here. So I feel it's my responsibility to to also nurture them and tell them when things are going wrong what they should do and correct them in some way. So I play a role of a mother as well in my department, and I don't think that I failed the youth in my department at all. They have someone to come and talk to very openly because they trust me. I think that's the pillar of success, that you have to develop a relationship of trust between the children.
एक गजाल तांचे म्हळे की खूब हे जाल्यात म्हणून टॉलरन्स लेवल देंवला. जनरली टॉलरन्स लेवल देंवता तेन्ना ऑन सिरियस इश्यूज, ऑन मेजर इश्यूज ते टॉलरन्स लेवल एक्सप्लोर जातनाय दिसपाक जाय. बट वी सी अ कायंड ऑफ इंडिफरन्स टुवर्ड्स मेजर इश्यूज. आनी असली जेन्ना फालतू गजाली जातात तेन्ना वायलंट जावप आनी फ्रेंडाचेर अटॅक करप असली गजाली पळयतात. Why do you think that has happened? Whether it is lack of tolerance level or it is indifference?
Basically, I have been in the field of teacher education for many years, and I have noticed that over the years, the kind of students we are getting are students who are only interested in doing well in exams. So we get lots of distinction holders, rank holders, but we rarely can produce persons of distinction. And that is what I have been struggling with all these years. We have graduates who come to the B.Ed college. You ask them about issues in the state and they're totally oblivious of what's happening. So unfortunately, our education system is not helping our youth to become vocal, to develop critical thinking, to question the reality around them. We teach them to read and write, but we don't teach them to read and write reality. And so therefore, when things come up, they don't have a mind of their own. They cannot make choices. Years ago, we had some commerce students in our hostel, and they went and joined some kind of a protest. So I asked them, what did you all go for? They said, we don't know. The other students just called us, so we went. And so therefore, my take is that if our education system doesn't develop in students a dream for a world that is more equitable and just and caring, we are missing the point in education.
I want to mention it. आमची एक युवापंथी म्हणून प्रोग्राम येता. तातूंत भितर आमचो एंकर आहा सचिन म्हणटा तो वतान तांकां एक सादे सादे प्रश्न विचारता. पयर ताणें विचारिल्लें की हू इज द फर्स्ट प्रेसिडेंट ऑफ इंडिया काम कॉलेजी भितर, नॉट इन हाय स्कूल. आनी ताणें ज्या तरेची रिप्लायज दिली पळय हांव घोळून पडपाचो टिपून. एकट्यान मनोहर पर्रीकार म्हणून सांगलें, if good that chief minister is not here, if he was here, either he would have been very happy as a politician or very sad as an education minister. There can be only two things that can happen out of it. किती जाला कारण काय एक 15-20 जाण अशी 30 तोंडां आता फॉर एक्झाम्पल तुजें थंय प्रत्येक कडेन तूच आसा 30-15-20 तोंडां आमकां प्रत्येक आंदोलना भितर दिसतात. What is the problem?
Everybody has become individualistic. It has changed our education so drastically that we are now considering education as a product and not a process. So सगळ्यांक कितें तरी easy जाय, सगळ्यांक consumable entity जाय. कारण this is the kind of society we live in. तू इंटरनेटाचेर गेलो, you order something, you get it at home. तुगेलें इंटरेक्शन कोणा कडेन ना, तुका तो विचारूय करिना की बाबा हो आपल्याक कोण दिता, कित्या खातीर दिता, हाजो उपयोग कितें. सो म्हाका दिसता की it has changed our psyche. आणि म्हाका दिसता की हे आयचे जे जग आसा विच इज एक्स्ट्रीमली कॉन्ज्युमेबल की दिस इज अ रूल ऑफ द वर्ल्ड. आणि तातून इट इज नॉट डेव्हलपिंग न्यू आयडियाज, इट इज नॉट डेव्हलपिंग दिस कल्चर ऑफ क्वेश्चनिंग. आणि वी आर ऑल प्रोडक्ट ऑफ दिस सिस्टम. सो इट हॅज समथिंग टू डू विथ अ व्हॅल्यू सिस्टम.
यू आर ब्लेमिंग द प्रिवियस जनरेशन.
I am not blaming a previous generation. I am blaming the system that is being imposed at this point of time. Imposed by, see, it's a kind of an ecosystem. So we have changed. Right now, the country that we live in, okay, it's no longer a social democracy. It's no longer ki जर तुका सांगले की education is everybody's right, we need to fight for it. आयज तो भुरगो पिशान काडटलो, तो म्हणटलो की सरकार म्हाका थोड्यांक दिता, आपल्या आवय बापाय कडेन ताका आसा आपल्या प्रायवेट स्कुलान घालपाची. आपल्याक युनिवर्सिटी तुजी थोडीच जाय स्टेट फंडेड युनिवर्सिटी. वाय नॉट युनिवर्सिटी शूड बी प्रायवेटायज्ड, जाच्या खातीर आपल्याक बरो जॉब मेळटलो. इट्स नॉट अबाउट द जनरेशन, इट्स द कायंड ऑफ अ सिस्टम वॉट वी हॅव एक्सेप्टेड. We have accepted this consumerist system. Everybody has accepted this consumerist system. Now we are having a problem with dealing with this system. की हांगासर अरे भुरगे आतां भायर वचपाक लागली हें सगळें मेळटा खरें आमकां आमकां आयपॅड आसा आयफोन आसा सगळें आसा फ्लिपकार्ट आसा एमेझॉन आसा पूण ही व्हॅल्यू सिस्टम नाच जाल्या
भुरगो हाता भायर वचप हें म्हाका दिसना की फक्त आतांचेच पेरंट्स म्हणटात तुमचेय पेरंट्स म्हणटा आसतले भुरगो हाता भायर गेलो म्हणून वी हॅव हर्ड दीस भुरगो हाता भायर गेलो ही फ्रेज जनरेशन्स आफ्टर जनरेशन्स आय थिंक विथ ईच जनरेशन इट इज एट अ डिफरंट लेवल दॅट भुरगो हाता भायर वचपाचें लेवल कितें दॅट चेंजीस आफ्टर ईच जनरेशन वॉट डू यू थिंक यू हॅव सीन मेनी जनरेशन्स हाता भायर वतात काय मागीर मातशी व्हडले जाले की परत हाता भितर येतात
प्रयत्न केले जाल्यार येतात
प्रयत्न केला येतात
बरे भशेन आय डोंट से दॅट वी हॅव फेल्ड यूथ तो फेल्ड शब्द म्हाका खटकता वी हॅव नॉट मॅनेज्ड यूथ आय वूड से अँड इफ यू मॅनेज यूथ वी कॅन चेंज
मॅनेजमेंट नीड्स एक्सपर्टीज न्ही
एक्सपर्टीज नाही लव आय वूड से एक्सपर्टीज म्हणजे पेक्षा लव इज व्हेरी मच इम्पॉर्टंट अफॅक्शन अँड आतांच सविताबाईन सांगला त्या प्रमाणे इफ द टीचर or the parent has got good communication skills with the youth, definitely the students change. And this is my experience.
Many youths are clapping. तुम कित दिसता it is more today important to educate the parents than educating the children?
Counseling is required for parents, teachers, okay, how to handle this youth because see, as he has mentioned, society is different today as compared to I would say 15 years back or 30 years back when I started as my teaching career. So that time society was different, today it is different. That time teacher was whole and soul. The moment I stand is to feel great that a lady teacher has come to teach chemistry. Now that thing is not, there all are lady teachers only. So this thing has changed. Plus one more important thing, as she has mentioned, mobile, internet, Wi-Fi, many things have added. How to make the best use of it, that teacher has to convey. I won't say that these are bad at all, because they are connecting us to the world. So how to get connected, the same thing, whether you can use it for your development and also for bad things. So it is the parents and teachers together who have to handle this youth.
तीन डॉक्टर आसात but you are the different kind of a doctor who actually deals with cases that have become very serious. You made a very interesting point that we have been unable to deal with the changes we have already accepted. We have accepted those changes but we are not able to deal with them. खंय चुकता?
Tough question. Before I attempt to answer your question, I was beginning to feel that you got me here as a stage prop. But before I try to answer your question, I just want to take a step back and look at the theme of the panel discussion. And the whole issue that you're trying to tackle is whether we have failed the youth. We don't want this panel discussion and what we are saying here to turn into a youth bashing event. Right? So trying to shift blame on the younger generation and what you rightly pointed out about the fact that this is not the first generation that we are worried about. When I was younger, my father said the same thing about me, and I'm sure his father must have said the same thing about him and his father before him. So this whole thing about moral panic about the next generation is happening since the time of Aristotle. So there's nothing new about it. The point that we need to think about is it any different from what used to happen before? And I'm not really convinced. I'm not really convinced that violence is increasing amongst the younger generation. I'm not really convinced that younger people are becoming indifferent to what's happening around them. I'm not convinced that we have lost this generation. And the reason I'm saying this is it's probably that a lot of these things must have happened in previous generations. It's just this modern media technology that's bringing the world, making the world smaller, that's making us aware of all of these things happening. So if we take this, if we just try thinking that all of these things are getting worse and what should we do about it, I think a better way of looking at it is these things are happening. We are not sure whether they're going up or not. The question to ask is, why is this happening? And the bigger question then, because it's just not enough to state the problem and then try to find out why the problem is happening, because the biggest question for us as a society, as a modern society, is what can we do about it? And I'm stating this as a citizen of the world now, and not as a psychiatrist. This is not an opinion as a psychiatrist. I'm not talking about people who go down the other extreme and have mental health problems which manifest as violence or as problems within society. But I think it's us as a society that's creating an environment, as you rightly said, which is making it difficult for both us to deal with the younger person and for the younger person to deal with us. Because most of us who are controlling the systems and policing, so to say, the younger people, don't understand younger people. We claim to understand young people, but we don't. I mean, the evidence for that is this panel. I mean, we have 6 of us sitting here, and you have 1 young person. And you
I'm also young.
Yeah, I didn't count you. I said 6 people. I also consider myself young. I mean, but let's leave that aside. But you have 1 person, young person sitting here, and we are kind of trying to answer the question, have we failed the youth? I mean, are we asking the youth, have we failed them?
You got
ताणी सांगिल्ल्या म्हणण्याप्रमाणे की वो क्वेश्चन देन have we failed the youth? We pointed out to the youth. Okay, pointing out to the youth is simple, but who are this we? Yeah, we म्हणजे कोण? Is that a previous generation? Okay, or the kind of culture that we are brought up in, or maybe या जनरेशन म्हणजे आमच्या परस पहिले जनरेशन और त्या जनरेशनाकडल्यान कितें घेवन आयलां. सो हू इज दीस वी? म्हाका दिसता की ते आमी कॉन्टेक्चुअलायज करपाची गरज आसतली. बट द थिंग इज दॅट परत परत ह्या चर्चेंतल्यान जो मुद्दो येता की एवरीबडी इज पॉयंटिंग टुवर्ड्स द कायंड ऑफ एड्युकेशन सिस्टम वी हॅव गॉट आनी वॉट इट हॅज शेप्ड. म्हाका दिसता की तातूंतल्यान आमकां वी नीड अ इन्वेस्टमेंट ऑफ आयडियाज in our education system. The way Japan and US is thinking of their education. Ki Japan's investment, as far as investment is concerned, they have invested hugely as far as education is concerned. The way China is investing in healthcare, in education, it's tremendous. And not only investment in terms of money, in terms of ideas, in terms of creativity. I mean, Obamaची campaign जेन्ना सुरू जाल्ली, what Obama pushed for is the universal midday meal scheme, की compulsory midday meal scheme. आमचे तर हांगा घटनेन आसा की ओबामा सारके मनशाक तेन्ना सांगचे पडलें की जे सहभोजन आसा पळय, सो इट बिकेम अ प्रायम फोकस इन हीज कॅम्पेन. सो दिस इज अ कायंड ऑफ आयडियाज दे आर इन्वेस्टिंग इन.
So this is a very important point, that our education today lacks creativity. You agree with that?
I don't think that education lacks creativity, but one thing which I feel in the youth is that they should also learn to celebrate failure. Because everyone talks like Yugang was talking now, China nahi kele, Obama nahi kele. It's all success stories. Now the main topic which today's youth talks about is all success. I want to be successful like this, I want to. Now what is that success is what I don't understand sometimes. When parents also tell them, like he said, it will be a good reason for us to get a good job. Now what is a good job? How do your parents, is it only in terms of money or is it the happiness? For me, a good job will be where I'm happy and I get content by doing what I'm doing. Like some parents impose things on their children and say, okay, you have to become a doctor, you have to become an engineer. And they never find out what the child really likes. So I think children nowadays should be given a choice to choose what they want to like, what they like, to do that in their education, and that will make them content. I don't think any idea of suicide will come when you're happy doing what you like. So you shouldn't listen to what other people impose on you, but you should find out what you love inside your heart and do that.
Ma'am, you agree? Education lacks creativity?
Education per se is not supposed to lack creativity, but my point here is exactly what she's saying, that the youth are looking for something and they don't know what. I was traveling through Bangalore once and I saw a huge hoarding by an IIM institute which said, we inject competition in your blood. And my hair stood on edge. Is that what we are doing through our education system? Making students compete with each other without knowing what they are going to do with what they learn. And so therefore for me, if education is not bringing the capacity to choose in a student, the capacity to make choices, to recognize what he wants and what he needs, and to ask himself, is this the choice for me? Is what I am doing now helping me to meet my need? If it is not, do I have alternatives? Can I discern alternatives and make choices? And evaluate how I am progressing. Unfortunately, education is not teaching our youth that. We are teaching them to mug up, we are teaching them to answer questions and examinations, and colleges and universities will be very happy when we have 10% results. That's not the test of education. The test of education is producing people who think, people with refinement, people who are caring and humane. That's my view.
very, very frankly, same points की तुमचे काळात जी शिक्षण पद्धत आशिल्ली, it was also similar. Then why are we discussing this today? Nothing has changed. Rather, our education system has added so many new elements than what it had when you were studying. In spite of that, today we are talking this. Why?
No. In the background now, we are here on the platform of remembering Matani Saldana. And like he was an icon, I can say. Means he was a school teacher, he was an activist, he was committed to whatever he did. In that background, if I say that today I think we lack icons, we lack people whom the younger generation can look up to and say that this is the kind of value system which I want. This is, I think, one of the major things, one of the major contributions that we can say we have failed the youth is that today, from what I said at the start, like I find it as a degradation of moral values. Humanism is completely eroded today. Like, means that's what I basically
So
started.
you can't made a point that consumerism has taken over humanism.
That maybe it's also there, but it's basically like that we don't know that the meaning of being a human being, of enjoying our freedoms. That's the basic thing, I think, and that's why I said like that. The background I said of Matani Saldana, he was like what you can say an icon because he represented the values of humanity, and that's what he stood for. Like he was so committed to to the people's causes. He was so sincere in whatever he did. Honesty was something which is there. Like today we see that we are living in a society where everybody knows, like from the time you are born today, like it means corruption is like, it means it is really crushing our society today. I think that is the biggest malaise and the biggest, like today even if you say like employment, people know like you cannot get a government job unless you are able to purchase a job. I am sorry to say, there is a hard reality today. Like so, in this kind of a system, I think that we really require a change of mindset, and we have a great.
But tell me one thing, taking this point forward, human values दवरप किंवा ते आचरणाक हाडप, implement करप आपल्या आयुष्या भितर. Have we created a system where भुरग्याक दिसता की आपणे अशें वागप is not very beneficial, it's not very practical, and the more pragmatic point of view is आपलो विचार करप, आपल्याला कितें पळोवप आनी तातूंतल्यान आपणे मुखार वचप. सो वी हॅव क्रिएटेड अ सिस्टम वेर आमी ताका सारको आत्मकेंद्रीत करून दवरला आनी तातूंतल्यानूच तो समाजा कडेन पळयता. जबाबदार कोण आतां?
जबाबदार म्हणजे सुरवात आमी जर पळयत, वी सी अवर फॅमिलीज सिस्टम, जॉयंट फॅमिलीज आशिल्ल्यो, तातूंतल्यान न्युक्लियर फॅमिलीज जाल्यो, न्युक्लियर फॅमिलीजच्यान ताजे फुडें इंडिविज्युअलिस्टीक जाले. So from पयलीं पळयता आसतना शेजारी पळयताले, फॅमिली पळयताले, बापोल भाव, मामे भाव, देर वॉज नो दिस थिंग, ऑल वेर भाव, फ्रॉम देर सख्खो भाव, ताज्या नंतर फक्त हांव. सो दीस इज एन evolution you can say, but nothing bad in that also. You have to see the plus and minus points. तशें सुद्दां असलें जाल्यार what is important is you have to increase the emotional quotient of the child. The emotional quotient कोणे वाडोवपाचो? Is it the parent or the teacher? I think you should have to your this thing, either the teacher or the parent or the society or your somebody around who increases this emotional quotient.
Trying to shift all the blame or put all the responsibility on education is again trying to put a very simplistic solution or trying to find a very simplistic solution to a very complex problem. A complex problem such as this requires a multi-sectoral response, obviously. I mean, there is education, there is the family unit, there is society, there is civil society, there's the health sector, there's the legal sector. Everyone has a responsibility. I mean, there's a very nice saying in many African countries which says it requires a village to raise a child. So it's not a parent's responsibility, it's the responsibility of the village to raise a child. Now, what is a village in the modern world? It's all of these systems that we have in place is the village, and it becomes a collective responsibility to raise not the child, just a child, but the youth as well. But the moment we start talking about this is how the youth is getting spoiled or getting worse, we are not doing any favors to anyone. We have to accept the fact that the world has changed. We can't do anything about it. We have to accept the fact that we have moved from joint families to nuclear families. We have to accept the fact that society is becoming increasingly egocentric, moving away from sociocentric societies. We have to accept that technology is here to stay. We have to accept that a lot of young people are living within a world, a virtual world created by technology. If we start thinking that we are going to break all of that, reverse all of those changes and go back to this utopian world which we had, which is not true. I mean, as Vrinda pointed out, I mean, life was not perfect when we had joint families either. So if we are trying to achieve that utopian world, we are not going to get anywhere because we can't reverse what has happened. What we need to do probably in my head is try to get a better understanding of what the youth's frame of reference is with regards to all of these problems and try to sort out these problems within that context rather than trying to sort them out within our context.
This is very interesting. Let me ask you this. What did you expect from the society or the generation before you or the generation before that? And what did you feel you did not get?
Well, very
as a youth, I'm asking you this question. See, now I'm asking you an equally complex question.
Thank you very much.
सो म्हाका अशें दिसता की ज्या पद्दतीची वेवस्था आमी पळयली द EMI जनरेशन ओके की द कायंड ऑफ सोसायटी ज्या तरेचे संस्कार भुरग्या कडेन जाता की बाबा तुज्या सगळ्यो बऱ्या शिक्षणा खातीर तुगेल्या पालन पोशणा खातीर हें सगळें आवय बापूय तुज्या खातीर करता की बाबा तुका कितें जाय तुका सायकल जाय सायकल हाडून दितली पयलीं कसली सायकल आशिल्ली ती एटलासाची सायकल आशिल्ली सादी सायकल आशिल्ली मागीर तुका गियरांची सायकल म्हणून हाडून दिली मागीर तुज्या खातीर बाबा बरें घर बांदलें तुका शाळेन पावपा खातीर लज दिसताली स्कुटरीन वचपा खातीर तुज्या खातीर गाडी घेतली हें सगळें केलें हें तुज्या खातीर केलें सो हें सोंपेपणान जावना की प्रत्येकाचेर EMI लागलो आनी प्रत्येकाचेर हावजींग लोन आसा प्रत्येकाचेर कार लोन आसा सो आवय बापायची अपेक्षा अशी की बाबा तुवें बरो शिकचो आनी जशें मॅडमीन सांगलें बरो जॉब इज अ 5 फिगर सॅलरी की बाबा हें आपणें तुका दिलां हें कंटिन्यू तुवें करपाक जाय सो दीस वॉज द मॉडल दॅट वॉज शोन टू दीस जनरेशन बिकॉज अशें न्ही की तांची चूक आसा की EMI गेन्ड अ करन्सी म्हणजे द कायंड ऑफ सोसायटी की ही जी ग्लोबलायझेशन आसा दीस वॉज द प्रॉडक्ट ऑफ दॅट यू नीड टू कन्ज्यूम दीस ओके सो दीस इज अ कायंड ऑफ सोसायटी यूथ एनकावंटर्ड ओके आनी आतां जर यूथ ताजे कडेन वचपाक सोदता जाल्यार एवरीबडी इज डिस्कसींग अबाउट द वॅल्यूज ह्युमन वॅल्यूज मोरालिटी आनी हे सगळ्यो गजाली खातीर सो दीस इज द सोसायटी दॅट वॉज शोन टू द यूथ एंड दीस इज the way youth is going towards.
Do you agree this? The EMI generation, as he calls it, that this is the एक चौकट घालून दिली, हे ब्रॅकेट घालून दिले आणि ह्या ब्रॅकेटा भितर तुम्ही चलपाचे आणि आज जेन्ना ते आपूण जोडपा लागतात आणि त्या ब्रॅकेटा भितर आपल्याक जाय ते करपा लागतात, वी हॅव अ प्रॉब्लेम विथ दॅट.
No, I just I'm just on a lighter note. I'm just telling you what is this generation all about. This generation is called 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 piece. What you mean by that is 5-figure salary, 4-wheeler, 3 BHK flat, 2 kids and a 1 wife piece.
I straight away go to you without saying anything about it.
Kaja observation is I have to accept because it is his perception as
You
a
don't
youth.
agree with him?
No, I have to. Suppose when we are seeking for a solution, first we have to accept. Then only you can seek a solution for any problem. If at all there is. And if there is not, then enjoy. Isn't it? So,
now you are
if
talking
we are
like
saying,
a psychiatrist.
Yeah, no. Now, you see, if we are having, let us say, many people talk about the mobile. Okay. So, rather than just discussing that the mobile is bad, why not use it for your teaching learning process? In Dempe College, we are trying to look for it. Make everything is Android platform, have the Moodle, have your lecture notes on it, have the question, this thing on it. So you use your mobile and do all these things. Means you are using mobile, we are penetrating through the mobile to you. This is the thing. Now we look for holistic development. Our vision mission itself says that holistic development of the child. And in a small way, Dembe College teachers are trying that. See, many students are sent, in most of the colleges, they are sent to orphanages, they are doing NSS, they are doing NCC, they are going to the old age home. I tell the students, when you go to the orphanage, don't just take it for a photography session there, have a selfie with somebody and post it, not like that. When you are going to the orphanage or playing there, just feel content and feel privileged that I have got parents, whatever type they are my parents, and I am happy at home and see the plight of those kids in the orphanage. When you start thinking on this thing, you feel you are the happiest on the earth. You go to the old age home or the disabled, we send them to Hamara school, Disha, then old age homes, we send them. When they are going to the disabled, they see a disabled child, they should feel that I have got 2 hands, 2 eyes, 2 legs, everything is in place, plus I have got the parents, I am the happiest person on this earth.
You are saying basically the exposures are required.
Exposures are required for the child, and that should be varied, and he should develop many hobbies. So if he fails at one, in the second he definitely excels. And when we are doing this, this is the holistic development of the child, and as a person then when he passes out as a graduate, our aim is he has to be an individual who is positive towards the society. So then stabbing and all those violent deeds, that doesn't come at all.
म्हाका एक गजाल सांगात, ताणी जो मुद्दो काडलो परत विथ द होलिस्टीक डेव्हलपमेंट, पयशाची सॉंग घेवपा येना, पयसो आसा तो आसा, ना तो ना. आनी आज आमी एक अशी चौकटीक एडजस्ट जाल्या, मे बी बिकॉज ऑफ दॅट कन्झ्युमरिझम, मे बी बिकॉज ऑफ द होल ग्लोबल आउटलूक, की आमकां त्या चौकटी भितर बसपाक जाय. आनी जेन्ना आमी एक चौकट ठरयता तेन्ना ताजे खातीर स्ट्रेचिंग करची पडटा, ना ती चौकट बारीक करची पडटा. दॅट इज द स्ट्रगल. आनी तातूंतल्यान हो स्ट्रगल निर्माण जाता. आनी जेन्ना आमची भुरगीं व्हडलीं जातात तेन्ना आमची ती चौकट ल्हान जावपा लागता, आमी जाणटी जावपा लागतात. आनी भुरगीं ती चौकट एडजस्ट करती पूण आमी नॉस्टाल्जीक जातात. देन वी ट्राय टू इम्पोज अवर नॉस्टाल्जिया ऑन दियर एस्पिरेशन्स. डोंट यू फील सो?
म्हाका दिसता ही चौकट आसा पळय ती सगळी करून भुरग्यांक दिवंक जायना. भुरग्यांक ताजो व्हॅल्यू कळूंक जाय. चौकट कशी करप ती आवय बापायनी 2 सायडी केल्यार पुरो बाकीच्यो 2 सायडी चौकटाच्या भुरग्यांनी करूंक जाय सो आय फील दॅट दे शूड ऑल्सो हॅव अ कॉन्ट्रिब्युशन टू देअर कॅरियर they should also struggle. If they get everything, there is no value for everything. For everything, if they get everything on a platter, there is no value at all. So you have to struggle in your life to achieve what you want to be. And I don't think, I mean, in a Western society at 16, parents just leave you out of their house and say you have to become independent. We still in India don't have a society like that. We don't have a culture like that yet. It may be there in future, I don't know.
तांचो जो मुद्दा आशिल्लो regarding struggle, she started also with that ki we have taken the struggle out of our children's life and probably every parents wants to do that. You want their child to struggle less and less. जायते आमी दितात. Is it a wrong approach as a parent?
I think so, because
You should allow them to struggle.
we have to, because what we say always that only with struggle, only if you struggle you can win. Means only by struggling you learn to overcome the difficulties in life. So that is one of the important aspects, I think.
And I think you should also teach them to celebrate failure. Celebrate failure, because failure is the stepping stone to success. So you shouldn't get depressed when you fail. You should.
Very important point. We should allow them to struggle. We are taking struggle out of their lives. We are making things easy. And then when things go wrong, we tell them that you don't know how to do this.
Come back to the same point that I made earlier. We can't reverse these things. Like society is changing. You are having access to comforts which people can afford. Why would you intentionally want to create an environment which makes life difficult for the child or the young person, believing that if we make it difficult for this young person, they will come out a better person? If that was the case, then everyone coming out of difficult circumstances in previous generations would have been a gem. Everyone coming out of a society where there are no such resources that we are talking about, such kind of comforts, would be these perfect citizens that we want. But that doesn't happen. Again, again, my thought is we are trying to put simplistic solutions to a very complex problem. It's not about making young people struggle, but I think probably the right way of framing it would be making them understand the importance of struggle. They don't necessarily have to go through those struggles. They have to understand the importance of the fact that things don't come easily. They might have come easily to you, but doesn't necessarily mean that they come easily to everyone, and appreciate the fact that what you are getting is something good, and you need to make something good out of yourself because of that. But I am not a big fan of this theory that life is too easy for young people, because they have other struggles that previous generations didn't have. I mean, we talk about younger people having access to technology and WhatsApp and Facebook, and how life is fun and great because of that. But then there is this issue of cyberbullying. I'm just kind of now digressing a little bit, but essentially trying to point out the fact that all of these things don't make life easier for the young person.
And what do you?
I believe we've been talking about developing the mind, the emotional quotient, but we are forgetting one very important dimension of the human being, which is the transcendent dimension, the spiritual dimension. We are not here only for this world. And once we recognize that we are body, mind and spirit, which our ancient philosophers have been talking about, then the spirit will lead us to be able to become better persons. Otherwise, we are so focused on this life, and this life is going to end. I'm not going to take my big bungalow with me. I'm not going to take my 27-story building with me. But what am I going to take with me? And this is what people like Matani and all have fought for, that the human spirit is not crushed, that the human spirit is developed. And unless we keep this dimension of the human person in mind, we are all heading for disaster. And so therefore, I think we as parents, we as teachers, have to nurture this dimension, because the youth have something very beautiful about them, and once you touch that, you can take them far. They will go far, they don't need you. All right? So therefore, I believe that all of us are responsible in the home, in the school, in society, to show each other that we are not here only for this world, and that there's a beyond which will make us transcend ourselves, transcend our needs, transcend our desires, and therefore reach out to everybody else.
Even before I go for a break, very important thing. तू इतली वेगवेगळ्या सामाजीक चळवळी भितर भाग घेता आनी हांवें जस्ट सांगलें की तीच तोंडां आमकां परत परत दिश्टी पडटात. भुरग्यां बरोबर काम करतना तुका केन्नाय दिसलां की द थॉट दॅट यू आर ट्रायंग टू प्रोपगेट ऑर द कॉज दॅट यू आर टेकिंग अप इज गेटिंग पर्क्युलेटेड डावन. देर इज सेन्सिटिविटी डावन द लायन एट अ मास लेवल टू अंडरस्टँड द नुएन्सीस ऑफ अ कॉज एंड स्टँड अप फॉर इट.
ऑफकोर्स आसा, युथा भितर ती स्ट्रेंथा आसा आनी ती सेन्सिटिविटी आसा. द इशू इज एंड इट्स अ प्रॉब्लम विथ दीस जनरेशन इज जर आमी सगळो यूथ ब्रॉडली जर एकी कडेन घेवन आनी ताचे विचार करीत जाल्यार ब्रॉडली, बिकॉज आमी वोदोळच्यान आमी युथाचे जे उलयता इट इज ऑफ अ पर्टिक्युलर क्लास इन्क्लुडींग मी, दॅट इज अर्बन सबर्बन यूथ. गोंयांत जर आमी वेगळ्या वेगळ्या हातून गेले, दीस आर नॉट द प्रॉब्लम्स विथ द मायनींग एंड द कोस्टल बेल्ट. तांची स्ट्रगल वेगळीच आसा. तांकां स्ट्रगल म्हूण स्पेशल करची पडना, तांकां दिवची पडना की तांगे लायफूच स्ट्रगलांतल्यान वयर आसा. वेल, युथांक कडेन उलयतना एप्रोच जातना एक गजाल जाणवता की यूथ आर नॉट एक्सप्रेसीव एंड द बेजीक प्रॉब्लम इज द कम्युनिकेशन्स. खूब आमी कॉलेजींनी ते खूब एक नोटीस जाता आनी खूब दखल घेवपाची गजाल की उलोवप कमी जालां भुरग्यांचें. की ओके म्हणटा की टेक्स्ट मी और व्हॉट्सएप मी, ओके. सो आनी व्हॉट्सएप सुद्दां ओकेचो ओके दोन हाजो वर्डाचो हें तो की ओके, ओ एंड के.
That has also become K.
That has become a K. Okay. So we are becoming to the small is beautiful की आपली फॅमिली, आपले कुटुंब, आपली गाडी, आपले घर. वेल, एक गजाल म्हाका नोट जाता की इन दिस एडवांसमेंट ऑफ टेक्नॉलॉजी एंड दिस बॉम्बार्डमेंट ऑफ इन्फॉर्मेशन, यूथ इज नॉट कम्युनिकेटींग. की हांव जेन्ना कॉलेजीन वता, युनिवर्सिटीन वता, ओके, तांकां दिसता खूब बट दे आर नॉट एक्सप्रेसीव. सो म्हाका दिसता की हो एक म्हाका सायकेट्री सायकोलॉजी.
Is it right? That their mode of expression has changed.
Yes, but it's the same thing. I mean, I think it's communication is evolving. We can't put a value label to it and say that what people talking face to face and talking a lot was good, and people communicating or young people communicating on WhatsApp and Facebook is not, because it doesn't fit our idea of what conventional communication should be. Because at the end of the day, communication should be effective. What I say, if you understand it, I say okay or I say K, but as long as you understand what I'm trying to communicate, that is communication. And the fact is that because it's evolving, it's not just this generation, right? So for my own example, I mean, me and my cousins were on Facebook. We have now moved on to WhatsApp, and my aunts have moved on to Facebook, right?
Yeah.
So people are evolving as well. So it's not as if it's just young people who are using this technology and we sit back and say, oh, there's everything wrong with this. We have to evolve with young people. I mean, this whole thing about young people not having a social conscience anymore and not getting involved in any kind of survey, as you call it. But it's not as if the previous generation, everyone was going on morchas. I mean, that was not happening. At the end of the day, most of the people were worried about their roof over their head, clothing, food for their children. And there was still like probably 10% like you, Gang, who were kind of doing this social activities, and everyone else was doing what they are doing now.
I think the previous generation has a lot of catching up to do. Just because we are unable to do that, we should not blame somebody else.
Exactly. I mean, that's my belief.
Okay.
कारण आता जे उलोवप जाला ते सगळे तरणाटे चुकल्यात म्हणून जाला आनी हांगासर स्पश्टपणान सांगला आमी खंय चुकल्यात ते तरणाटे हांगासर पावले. हातून भितर वेवस्था जी आशिल्ली जी त्या वेवस्थेंतल्यान जी अपेक्षा आमचे कडच्यान आसा आनी ती अपेक्षा जेन्ना आमी हें करूंक शकना तेन्ना जे आमकां भोगचें पडटा ताका लागून आमच्यो ज्यो वृत्ती आमकां पळोवपाक मेळटात त्यो घडटात. हाचेर तुमचें मत कितें?
I feel that parents have a certain expectation towards their children, and they've already made up their mind that their child should do this. And because of that expectation, if the child does something else, then the parents feel very disturbed about it. So one thing which I feel is you should not have an expectation in advance, and also open up with the child and ask them what they also love to do before you have an expectation, and then you can have an expectation.
I think more and more there needs to be communication between the parents, between
the child.
the teachers and the system. Because we are moving in one direction, the parents are in another, and society has its own set of norms and values. So how are we going to help the youth handle these three dimensions? So there is where our role as teachers comes in, our role as educators, our role as parents come in. So therefore, we cannot expect them to handle everything. So somewhere we as adults have to see what direction we are giving to people, to our young people.
Youth स्वतः expect करता कि there should be a solidarity, there should be a collective resistance against this system. आणि जी आम्ही भोगवादी आणि कॉन्झ्युमरिस्ट संस्कृती आपणावन आम्ही जे पोकळ जायत चल्ल्या, म्हणजे तातून फक्त आमकां पयसो दिसता, तातून फक्त आमकां मॉनिटरी व्हॅल्यू दिसता की हातून कसलेच तरेची इंटेलेक्च्युअल बेज ना, नाविन्य ना, क्रिएटिविटी ना, की म्हाका दिसता की युथांची जबाबदारी आसा की ह्या गजालीचो प्रतिकार जावपाक जाय, की ज्या पद्दतीन आमी नवे टीचर भितर सरतले, ज्या पद्दतीन ह्या पिळगे कडल्यान नवो टीचर भायर सरतलो, नवो एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर भायर सरतलो, नवे सरकार भायर सरतले, म्हाका दिसता की ह्या वेवस्थेचो व्यापक नदरेंतल्यान आनी खूब वोकल रितीन प्रतिकार जावपाची गरज आसा, आनी इट इज द रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी ऑफ यूथ टू डू इट.
As per WHO, the definition of health is not mere absence of the disease, but it is physical, social, mental, and they have added one more factor now, what she added, and that is spiritual. I think we have to focus also on spiritual factor, so that we are all united, and whatever we do the good things.
हांव एक स्वतः टीचर हायर सेकंडरीन शिकयता, आनी आमचे कडेन जे एज ग्रुप आसा भुरगे 16 ते 18 वर्साचे, आणि क्लासीन जर एक 60 भुरगे आसत जाल्यार त्या 60 भुरग्यांचो जो बिहेवियर आनी अप्रोच आनी एटिट्यूड जर पळयलो जायत जाल्यार डिसेंट दिसना, म्हणजे तांचे भितूर खंय तरी मोरल व्हॅल्यूज आसा पळय दे आर लॅकिंग. बट ही जी जनरेशन आसा हांकां जर घटमूट करतलो जर जायत जाल्यार आमी खंय चुकता. हो प्रश्न एक शिक्षक ह्या नात्यान म्हाका पडला, आनी जेन्ना आमकां बीएडाक शिकयता वेगळे वेगळे विशय आसता, पूण त्यो सगळ्यो गजाली एक शिक्षक ह्या नात्यान जेन्ना हांव शिकयता तेन्ना ते थंय इम्प्लिमेंट करप पॉसिबल जायना, कारण आमच्या मुखार सिलेबसाचो मोठो एक वेटेज आसता. म्हणटकीर हे मोरल व्हॅल्यूज ह्या भुरग्यां भितर खंय कमी पडटा, हो म्हाजो मुख्य मुद्दो.
One more important aspect what we have to look here, the government has also given the counselor. So values, when we are saying whether it is the responsibility of the parents, as madam talked about the spirituality, now from where, whether it is the parents, teachers, society, who has to take this one?
You would like to answer that question?
No, I think that it is the education system, I think, which has to find an answer for this, because it is like the society, all of us, like there was a time when we all know about Robinson Crusoe, like he could live on an island. Like now the society has changed. We are no longer, as he also said, like times have changed, but we are, instead of becoming selfless, like I think we have to balance both being selfless and being selfish, like but at the same time, like the values, that's what in fact she has rightly said, that moral values, spiritual values, all this is something which like we have to, the family, the education system, the society, I think all these have to contribute towards developing this kind of values in the system, where every individual should not only be a member of the society, but he has to see whatever the society gives something to me, what can I give back to the society.
I very firmly believe that values are caught, and if they see the teacher as an upright person a person with values, a caring person,
Yes.
it rubs on. It may not rub on to all 100 students, but I believe that even 5 children, if even 5 students in my class have changed, they will change 5 others, and that's how society will change. So when the student sees my punctuality, when the student sees my dedication, when the student sees that I am willing to spend extra time with them, then they will pass on these same values to others. So your life must be your value education.
So म्हाका दिसता की अगेन टीचर एज अ ऑक्युपेशन, टीचर एज अ प्रोफेशन, म्हाका दिसता की ताका एक ड्रास्टीक बदल करपाची गरज आसा. यू नीड अ रिफॉर्म्स इन हायर एड्युकेशन एंड विच वील अकॉमोडेट this kind of which will accommodate these feelings, म्हणजे जे issues असतात ते.
You feel teachers are doing enough?
If I have your permission, I will divert myself a little bit from a question and try to point out the fundamental flaw in the question that was asked, if I may.
Yeah.
So the issue with morality and morals is if we try to teach someone morals, what is to say our morals are right? That's one. 2 is, if we go by Eastern philosophy, there is no such thing as absolute morality. Right? Morality is relative based on the situation. Right? If you read the Bhagavad Gita, then it's relative morality. Right? Sometimes you're allowed to kill people. I'm not saying you should go out and kill people. I'm just trying to point out that morality is sometimes relative. That's one. But the other thing is, morality also changes over time. What was moral 50 years ago might be immoral today and vice versa. So if we are going to take the stance that our students don't have the right morals and I'm going to teach them morals, that's not going to work, because there might be a gap between what morals were to you and what morals are in the modern world.
Me, as the MLA of Kortali constituency, I have people coming and telling me, Madam, you have to come, you have to see for yourself. And one day I did that. I did exactly that. I sat in the car, I covered my head right up to my face, the way the youngsters do now when they zoom around on two-wheelers. And I went to a particular place where I was taken by these people who came. And believe me, I was shocked and it hurt. Because I saw young boys and young girls. And I believe that happens every Sunday. I saw young boys, young girls, exhibiting excessive freedom. I saw boys and girls with beer bottles in their hands. I was told that some of them had bottles of maybe which appeared to be a soft drink, but I was told that it is not a soft drink that they are, indulging in. There is something added to the soft drink. And this is the reality that made us ask this question. Have we failed our youth? See, we have to face reality today. Even the most intelligent students are indulging in drugs, are indulging in alcohol. I was talking to a teacher from a school in Vasco, a very good teacher, teaching in a very good school. And this is just about 4 or 5 days ago when I went to invite her for this program. And she told me, Madam, you'll be surprised. I'm standing in front of my class and I see boys with their eyes drooping, because I know their eyes are drooping because they've been indulging in alcohol and they cannot stay awake in the classroom. This is where our youth has reached. And this is why we are asking the question, have we failed our youth? As parents, as teachers, as role models? I think somewhere we have gone wrong. Otherwise, why is it that even the intelligent students are indulging into this kind of behavior? And why is it that we are allowing temptation to be so easily available?
Now, for example, I'm not taking names of villages, but if you go on to North Goa and the coastal area and all, It's really, really shocking. I had the fortune of being a judicial officer in a narcotic court, and I must tell you that the prevalence of drugs in the coastal villages in Goa has become so deep that the moment people start, means even small young children start just consuming drugs, maybe as a hobby, as a pastime, then they get addicted to it, and young, even intelligent students from good families, they start taking things from the family, taking things from the house, selling them, because they then become dependent on those drugs. And that is why I think that today it is really, really, as Madam has pointed out, that today like that the value system is like everybody is trying to go after money, because easy money is the very much this thing, like, and that's why like the whole system has to be checked. Like means the police controls are lacking. The means the level of corruption amongst different levels of the government is very high. So all that creeps into the system, and that is where like I think our values are getting totally eroded, and we have to always of course be positive. How we can go ahead, as Madam has said, that how we can bring our youth out of this. This is where I think the challenge is.
How do you draw a line between the morality and things that Madam narrated?
Let me give you a simple example from what happened in this auditorium earlier today. There's some lovely cake that was being served outside, and there's very clear signs written on the door here saying that no eatables allowed. A young lady walked in with cake in her hand inside the auditorium, and she said, I don't care if we are not allowed to have food inside here. I'm not going to kind of shame her, whoever that is, but she said that and she had the cake. The point I'm trying to make here is young people, their brains are hardwired to stretch the limits of what you allow them to do and not to do. They're going to do that. And one way of doing that is this rebelling in various ways. You can't help it. I mean, their brain is that developmental phase where they are going to stretch the limits. It is a very critical period of development for them, and they are going to test you, and they are going to test what they are allowed to do, what they can do, and what they can get away with. The thing to remember is that does not mean that we have lost all of them. For every one person who is in Kortalim taking drugs on the weekend, sitting there, I see 10 young people like this sitting at a panel discussion, trying to make sense of the world. So there is hope. I mean, we can't kind of try to bracket the whole generation of young people into these problems. I agree there are problems. We need to kind of tackle these problems, but at the same time, we have to be very careful that we don't brush the entire generation
in the same color.
Yeah.
हांव इतल्याचें समजा वेळ सारको सोंपला, बट म्हाका जर एक जर हातूंतल्यान टेक अवे जातलो जाल्यार लेट अस नॉट पूट ब्रॅकेट्स अराउंड एवरीथींग. तुमी जशें बरें सांगलें की चौकट जर आसा जाल्यार दोन बाजू पेरंट्साक घालनी, दोन बाजू घालपा खातीर भुरग्यांक जागो दवरूं दी. आय थिंक तो स्पेस आनी तो स्कोप जर आमी भुरग्यांक दिलो जाल्यार आमची मेजॉरिटी ऑफ द प्रॉब्लेम्स सॉल्व जातले. तितली भान एक समाज म्हणून आनी पेरंट्स म्हणून आमी दवरतले, इतलीच इच्छा हांव व्यक्त करता आनी थांबता. तुमी आयली, इतली बरी तरेन मतां मांडली. थँक्स अ लॉट. आनी लेट जावन सुद्दां तुमी सगळे जाण हांगा रावले. थँक्स टू यू ऑल्सो. थँक्यू.